Hello friends and welcome to my channel. This week I've been trying out the new Saie Glowy Skin Foundation, and my conclusion has been that of all the foundations that I have tried in my whole life, this is likely the most innovative but also the most weird, and that therefore it has been worth my time to figure out what is going on with it, even if I never end up using it again. So in this video, what I'll be doing is sharing with you my conclusions about the product. In addition, I will be letting you know about the unexpected way that I made it work for me best. And finally, I will be going through all of the products in the Saie line and letting you know my opinions about them, because there are some of those that I really do like very much. So I hope that you will stay with me, and let's get started. So let's talk a little bit about this foundation. It is officially called the Saie Glowy Super Skin Weightless Hydrobounce Foundation, and the website copy states that it's 85% skincare ingredients, and then it brings up specifically squalane, Indian gooseberry extract, and a proprietary Hydrobounce complex. So they don't explain what a Hydrobounce complex is. Based on my experiences with other products that I have used before that have the word bounce in the name or in the description, I felt like it was probably going to either contain a lot of squalane, or it was going to contain chia seed, or maybe that it was going to contain a lot of aloe vera. But as it turns out, that's not what they mean by bounce at all. Rather, the first ingredient in the product is marshmallow root extract. And I really think that it's almost entirely marshmallow extract, and that the reason for that is because if you look at the second ingredient, that is vitamin C. And usually when I see vitamin C in a product ingredient list, it is usually close to the end of the list. So in this case, I think that the fact that it's the second ingredient means that this foundation must be mostly marshmallow extract. Now, I think it's interesting that this product might include such a large percentage of marshmallow extract, because when I look at other products that say that they have marshmallow extract in them, or even if they're named after the marshmallow extract, it's really a very small percentage in these other products. So for instance, this is a product that I just happened to have around that I was thinking about trying from NYX, which is called the Marshmallow Primer. And if you look at the ingredients list for this, the marshmallow is all the way down at ingredient number 13, and yet they're bringing a lot of attention to it. On the other hand, Saie is not bringing any attention to the marshmallow extract at all. They don't bring it up in the marketing materials. They do have it on the ingredient list, obviously, but when they describe the product, they just call it this Hydrobounce complex. So apparently they're not thinking that this is going to be the prime reason that people want to buy this product, because it has marshmallow extract in it. In addition to the marshmallow extract, and then it has that vitamin C, it has a few stabilizers and preservatives in it, and then there's also a little bit of glycerin and a little bit of sodium hyaluronate and some squalane. So those are all hydrators, but the amounts of those are very small, so we can't really expect this to be hydrating. There's a little Indian gooseberry, which is like an antioxidant, which seems like it's probably working along with the vitamin C. And other than the squalane, which is a very specific kind of non-greasy oil, there's no oil in this product at all. So I would like to suggest that, based just on the ingredient list, that when you put this foundation on your skin, what you primarily seem to be doing is to be putting marshmallow extract on your skin. Now, yes, there's a little bit of tint in it, but it's not a lot of tint, and it's mostly, it seems, putting on the marshmallow extract. So therefore, the question is whether or not putting marshmallow extract on your face is something that you want to do. So I had previously heard of marshmallow extract primarily as an herb that you might use if you have leaky gut. And apparently what it does is to provide a barrier on the inside of the intestines so that it is less likely that little particles of food and other, whatever unhealthy substances will get out of the intestine and get into the bloodstream. So it's providing a kind of a coating on the intestines. And I had never heard of it in terms of putting it on the skin, but when I looked up some information on that, it does seem like there is some belief that this can be a positive thing to put on the skin. It's primarily described as is containing mucilage, which is a gelatinous and sticky substance. So I think that that mucilage is what Saie is describing as the Hydrobounce. And there is some literature that suggests that applying the product topically can help with skin irritation and with wound healing and with general skin health. Now, by the way, marshmallow candy used to be made with marshmallow extract because it has that gummy type feeling. But if you buy marshmallows now, then they're generally made with gelatin, which gives it a similar sticky type feeling, except apparently the marshmallow extract is even more sticky. Now, of the marshmallow extract products that are on the market or in the herbal literature about marshmallow, it's often described as being useful for irritated skin. And that makes me really interested because my own skin is very easily irritable. And so it seems to me that it might make sense to help to create a bit of a barrier on my skin to protect it from other kinds of problematic things that might be going on in the environment. I have not, however, heard of dermatologists especially recommending that people use marshmallow extract on their skin, and I've not even really heard of that very much from natural health practitioners. But the idea that it might be useful, which is what Saie is suggesting, is intriguing to me. So now let me tell you a little bit about my experiences with the product. I received this product late in the day, and I hadn't put any moisturizer or any other kinds of products on my face since the morning, and I wasn't wearing any other kind of makeup. And I had read that this is a product that you shouldn't use with other products underneath it, so I just put it directly on my face. And I felt that when I did that, it just sank right into my face. It did not feel greasy at all. It didn't feel sticky. But what did happen is that after a short period of time, I started to feel that my skin was feeling pretty dry and also that my wrinkles were looking worse. And when I looked in the mirror, it was not just my wrinkles that were looking worse, but I have very small pore issues like on my upper lip, and it did seem to exacerbate the pore issues as well. So the next time that I tried the product, I tried putting on an oil-free moisturizer, and not too much of it, which was the Honest Hydrogel moisturizer. So that has squalane in it, but it doesn't have any oils. And what I found out when I put that on was that after that, when I put the Saie product on, that it turned into kind of a gooey, sticky mess on the surface of my skin. So it kind of felt oily, but I don't think it was oil. I think that it was this mucilage that was right on the surface of my skin and not able to sink into my skin because the pores of my skin were already filled up with another substance. Hours went by and the foundation did not sink into my skin. And if I used a brush or tried to rub it into my skin, that didn't really seem to help. It just kind of stayed like a kind of a shiny, sticky mess on the surface of my skin. On subsequent occasions, I tried putting on oil on my skin or oil moisturizers. That did not work. I tried putting on the Saie sunscreen, the tinted moisturizer, Slip Tint, and that did not work with it either. That all of those things, whenever I put those things on the surface of my skin first, and then I put down the new foundation, that the foundation just would not sink in and it would stay kind of a mess on the surface of my skin, and that no matter how much powder I put down or no matter how little product I put on it, it really didn't work, and that the only way that I could get it to really work was to put it directly on bare skin. Now, there was one time that I thought that I would just put on my skincare in the morning and then wait a couple hours and then put on the Saie product after that. And again, the Saie product did not sink in when I did that. It just stayed on the surface of my skin. So it's not just that you have to put on your skincare way in advance of the product. It really has to have totally dissipated, and your skin has to be getting to the point where it doesn't have anything on, and then this stuff can like sink into the skin and kind of cling to it. Because that's the next thing that I found out about this foundation, is that if you do put it on dry skin, it clings like bloody heck to to your skin, and there is practically no way to get it off. So I'm used to using silicone foundations, and some of those do stick to my skin, and I do find that to be frustrating. But usually if I use an oil-based cleanser or just plain cleansing oil, so if I do a little bit of scrubbing with some exfoliation type products, then I can usually get most of it off. But in this case, I feel that the whole texture of my skin was different. So that rather than feeling smooth, it had this kind of gelatinous, it sort of felt like silicone, but the texture's a little bit different than silicone, and it sticks to the skin better than silicone. So is this a good thing? Well, if you're thinking that your goal is to create a barrier on the skin to protect it from anything else that you might put on it, then maybe this is okay, because my skin is very delicate, and it did provide like a protective coating on my skin. But on the other hand, what I also believe is that having this protective coating on my skin made my wrinkles look worse, even when I had done my best to try to wash off this foundation. So this Saie Lip Tint is a product that has a lot of oils and a lot of hydrators in it. So it's kind of on the moisturizing side, but I've never found that to be an issue at all because my skin is so dry. It also has a lot of glowiness to it, and it has an SPF of 35. And so it's zinc oxide, but I think it's likely a nano zinc oxide because it's so sheer. So it really gives very little color to the skin, and you're not getting any of the white cast of the zinc. So what I thought to myself is maybe what I should do is try putting this over the Glowy Skin Foundation, and maybe that will work better. And I actually think that this turned out to be by far the best use of these two products. And that if I put down the marshmallow product, the Glowy Skin product first, and then I put this slip tint over it, that the slip tint hydrated my skin and gave it some oil, so it stopped feeling quite so dry. And it also gave me the sun protection that many people are going to want. And it also, the primer seemed to be somewhat protective of against the zinc in the Saie product. So I find that zinc oxide is slightly irritating to my skin, and that's a disincentive for me to want to use it. But I think that if I put this glowy skin stuff down first, that the zinc oxide in this product has been less annoying to my skin. So all of those have been positive things. And I think that if I were going to use this product and I were being forced at gunpoint to wear it, that wearing it in conjunction with the Saie Lip Tint would be the way to go. Now, after that, I started to think, well, I wonder what else I could put on top of this Glowy Skin Foundation to make it work out better. So I tried a whole bunch of things. So I tried out several other foundations with a lot of oil in them. I tried out, for instance, the Westmont Atelier liquid foundation. I tried out the Jones Road foundation. I tried out the Makeup by Mario foundation. All of those did not work for me at all. What they all did, and I think it's because those all have more pigment in them, what they all look like is that like I had put like a mask on my skin. So I think that for all of those foundations, there are quite a bit of pigment in oil, and they are intended to soak down into the skin and to kind of meld with the skin so that it looks like it's one. So my feeling with all of those products is that they usually don't look all that great on me until they actually sink into my skin. So I feel like if I brush those products into my skin with a brush or even a sponge in some cases, that can accelerate the progress in terms of their sinking into my skin and not looking so much like there's a mask on top of my skin. But of course, when I put this mucilage on top of my skin, there was no way that any of those could sink in. So they just stayed giving me that mask-like look for an extended period of time until I took them off. So that did not really work. I also tried putting on just some moisturizing, different kinds of products on top of it, and that did not really work very well for me either. But I do feel that surprisingly this lip tint did work on top of it. Now I'm sure that there are other things in the world that I could put on top of the Saie Glowy Skin Foundation that would work with it, but I haven't found them so far, and I'm not going to continue to try this forever to figure out what those might be. But I do think it's very interesting that so far the only products that I have found that have worked together are the Saie Foundation and the Saie Slip Tint. Having worked in marketing myself, I realized that in a lot of cases, the marketing people are not necessarily the people who are responsible for coming up with the ideas for products. And then in some cases, what will happen is that the marketing people will just be sitting at their desk and someone will come in with a product and say, here, figure out how to sell this. And I wonder if that could be the case with these two products, because it does seem to me that whoever Saie is using as their makeup formulators, that they are very creative and that they really have a desire to figure out a new kind of a formula that's totally different than anything else that we've ever seen. And so what I kind of wonder is that if maybe the makeup formulators actually did have this in mind and that they put together these two products with the goal of being used together, and this was not communicated to the marketing department. So let's summarize my conclusions about this product. And basically what I have concluded is that putting a sticky layer of mucilage on your skin acts pretty much exactly the way that you would anticipate, which is that if your skin is free of other products and it can sink down inside and to your pores and cling to your skin, that it is going to provide a barrier to keep anything else from getting in. And that if your goal is that your skin is being irritated by various things in the environment, maybe that could be helpful. On the other hand, if you put this stuff on your skin and it already has a lot of stuff that's already inside the pores, then it is not going to have anything to cling to, and it's just going to feel like a slimy mess on the surface of your skin. So neither of those is really what I'm looking for, so I don't think that I'll probably be using this product again, and I couldn't really bring myself to put it on again because I feel like my wrinkle situation is finally starting to get a little bit better. So I put on the Saie Slip Tint today, and that is working out much better for me. It's not the best thing in the world for my skin either because of the SPF in it, but I put it on over the new Jane Iredale foundation as a primer, and I think that is protecting my skin from the SPF in it a bit. So it's not too bad, and it kind of feels like a relief compared to having to deal with the headache of the new Saie Glowy Skin Foundation. Now, do I think that this would be a good product for other people besides me? I think that it might be that if you were younger and you didn't have the wrinkle situation and you put this stuff and you had really irritated skin and you put this stuff right on your skin and then you put over the Saie Slip Tint, that might be okay. I think it might work reasonably well, but I think that any wrinkles or probably any pore issues that you may have may look worse as a result of putting that on. I will also have to admit that I feel like over the course of this experiment, trying this foundation on a whole bunch of times over the course of 5 or 6 days, that in general I feel like my skin quality went down. Now part of this may be that it was preventing it from being moisturized, but in general I also think that for the most part, water-based foundations are not very good for my skin. And part of that is because they don't include any oil, but it also seems to be because when we have water-based foundations, that the manufacturers feel obliged to put in a great deal of preservatives that keep it from growing mold and bacteria. And that while that's important, and while you certainly don't want to have mold and bacteria growing in your bottle of foundation, it also seems to be the case that those foundations cause changes in the microbiome. And that if your skin is very fragile in terms of the microbiome, as mine certainly seems to be, that putting on things that have these preservatives in them can alter the microbiome more and cause the skin problems to get worse. So I personally tend to be a lot better, I think, when I'm using oil-based foundations or cream foundations or not putting any foundation on at all. So in one of my previous videos, I put together a checklist of items that I use to rank various foundations, just to make sure that I don't miss anything. So I thought that what I would do now is to go through that checklist really quickly and let you know how the foundation performs. So let's briefly go through that checklist. This foundation is $40 an ounce. It comes in 36 shades. It offers light to medium coverage. I think that is accurate. The finish is slightly luminous. There's no SPF, there's no silicone, there's no fragrance, either natural or artificial. Do I think it's less irritating than other foundations? I think it's somewhat less. I think that it feels relatively healthy for my skin. I think the smell is fine. I didn't have a problem with that at all. I think that it hydrates my skin. I do think that it's putting like an occlusive barrier on my skin, like silicone. So even though it doesn't have a lot of other hydrators in it, I think that the fact that that the marshmallow root is acting like an occlusive barrier does keep my skin from getting too dry in terms of water, but my skin just doesn't produce that much oil. So it's not enough just to keep the oil that's there in the skin. I really feel like my skin needs more oil put on it. I have never found a foundation that once I took it off, that my wrinkles still looked worse. So I'm a little bit indignant about that, and so I would have to say that this goes on the poor side for that. I think the coverage is good if I were trying to cover things up, but I think that this does a good job with that at a medium coverage level. I think that it's not really blurring at all. It's more making my pores look worse. I feel like in terms of whether or not I look younger, that's a total failure. It's definitely making me look, I would say, at least 5 or 10 years older, maybe more. It looks a little bit like I'm wearing makeup when I have it on, but I would say that that's kind of average to good. I didn't find that there was a lot of patchiness, but I did feel that it kind of looked cakey. Long lasting, it does hold up really well. I could wear that all day and it would look exactly the same because it sticks to the skin so well. But long lastingness is not that much of an issue for me. Even though it has kind of a sticky feeling to it, it's not like my hair got stuck to it, as has happened with some foundations. So that hasn't really been a problem. It's just that the surface feels different. I think it would be fine for summer. I don't think it would melt off. I don't think that my skin would have problems breathing. So if I wanted to wear it out to go hiking or whatever, I think that that would be fine. It doesn't wash off easily at all. It's terrible. It stays on the skin very stubbornly. So I think that's the goal of it. I mean, that's why people take it internally, is because it does stick to the intestines. It just doesn't get washed through as you eat and drink. So there's a reason for that, but the question is whether you want it stuck to your skin so permanently. It's an easy product to use. I would say, though, that the pump size is really high. So you really should only be using a small amount of this on your skin, and themselves say that you should only start with half a pump. But when you get a full pump of this, that's a little too much. So it would be nice if the pump size were smaller. There's lots of shades, and I felt like the shade descriptions were pretty good. I felt really perfectly happy with the shade that I got, and that I thought that was a good match for my skin. And I was happy that there was a shade that said that it was for peach color, because that seems to be different for me than neutral colors, which is all that's usually offered. So in terms of problem ingredients, in terms of what EWG thinks is problematic, the only ones that it mentions is sodium benzoate, which is a preservative, and then just titanium dioxide and iron oxides. So it would match Credo standards. It's perceived to be clean by EWG. So in terms of conventional standards of clean beauty, this meets all of them. So there's really nothing like it on the market. All of the other foundations really, if they're serum foundations, they're giving you oil or other kinds of squalane, things like that, whereas this is totally different. This is something way from another planet. So those people had to be really creative to figure this out and actually create a real foundation based on it. So now let's talk briefly about all the other Saie products, because I have tried all of them, and this is a good opportunity to go through my collection. And I will go from the products that I liked the most to the ones that have been most problematic for me. So the product that I use almost every day now is the Saie Hydrabeam Concealer. However, the instructions for this say that it's supposed to be used under the eye. I found this to be a very sheer concealer, and it has a little bit of glowiness to it. And I have found that when I put that under my eyes, that it draws attention to a part of my face that I don't really want people to be drawing attention to. So the under eyes on my face are one of my more problematic areas, both in terms of dark circles and in terms of hollows and in terms of wrinkles. And so I would kind of prefer that not to be highlighted, and it's also not giving me much coverage. But what I have found is that this product has worked really, really well for me as an eyelid primer. So it has just a little bit of shine to it, and it has, if I buy it, I purchased this in a deeper color. So this is the color 2, I think. So what it has done is that I have some discoloration on my eyelids, which tends to happen to people as they get older. And so if I put this on my eyelids, then I think it works much better than a clear primer in terms of covering all that up, and in terms of also just giving a little bit of glow to that area, and it's also been very, very gentle. So there aren't any ingredients in it that I perceive to be problematic, and it hasn't irritated my eyelid area at all, whereas most of the things that I put on my eyelids have been very irritating. I also am very enthusiastic about the Saie brushes. This was not what I expected at all, but these are actually really good brushes. So I have 3 different brushes. This one is intended to go with the bronzer, but I use this for all kinds of things, including buffing foundation into my skin. Sometimes I have used it as a brush for powder blush, or certainly buffing cream blush into my skin. So I have been really, really happy with this brush. And then they also make this little powder brush, and I've liked that very much. This foundation brush is very similar to the large brush, but it's smaller and the bristles are a little bit longer, and it's a little bit softer. So if the goal is to do more targeted buffing in of things like concealer or of foundation, I think that this can be a good choice. And I think all of these brushes are really well made, and they've been really easy for me to use. And for the price, I think that they're as nice as any brushes that I have found. So the next thing on my list would be, I guess I have to mention the lip blurs. So these are matte lipsticks from Saie that just came out this past summer. And I just did a video on matte lipsticks, and where I tried on all the ones that I have, which was more than 30. And this one came out on top, so I really like it. I think that it goes on really easily. It looks a little bit on the relaxed side, but I think that it does give a really pretty matte look to the lips. And I have really enjoyed using it, and it doesn't have any unpleasant flavors, and it wears pretty well. So I feel really good about this. I also really like the Saie Dew Blush, and I just have this little container of it, but I have tried all the shades at Sephora, and I really like it. I think that it goes on looking very natural and that a variety of colors work for me. I don't know whether or not I like this better or if I like the Glossier Cloud Paints better, but they're kind of the same concept. And I think that these do not have cyclic silicones in them. So if that's a concern for you, then this would be a better choice. But in any case, I really enjoyed using this particular product. I have the shade Rosy, and I'd be interested in another one. Next on my list would be the Saie Air Set, which is a loose powder. And I have found that this is not very drying on my skin. It doesn't include any cornstarch. It doesn't have talc in it. It's comprised mostly of synthetic mica and silica, and I think that it's worked well for me. I still think I like the Kosas powder better, but as loose powders go, this one has been pretty good. And I think that over the summer, I'm going to be trying out a number of different powders because I really feel like I need powder a lot more in the summer. And so I will try to figure out what the pros and cons of various kinds of powders are. But of the powders that I have tried, I think so far I am still liking the Kosas pressed powder the most, but this one seems to be very good too. Now I tend to be very, very picky with mascaras because my eyes are very, very sensitive, and at one point I almost lost my eye to an eye infection, so I really don't like to have my eyes irritated at all. And most mascaras I have found do irritate my eyes a little bit, but when I have used the same mascara, I have not found that to be the case at all. I found that my eyes feel fine at the end of the day when I use that. So this is an accomplishment. The mascara comes with one of these plastic type wands. So that is something that you might want to consider whether or not that's the kind of wand you like. I personally prefer a tubing mascara at this point, so I've been more liking either the Merit mascara or the Calorie mascara. But this one, especially as non-tubing mascaras go, this one has worked well for me. It hasn't been very messy. It has held up well for me, and I'm certainly glad that it hasn't irritated my eyes. So I've gotten some use out of this. I also like the fact that they have small versions of this mascara because I like to change my mascara every month or two so that it doesn't have as much potential of going bad and causing problems to my eyes. And so this one's relatively affordable for that. Another product that I actually do kind of like is this liquid lip balm. So this has a number of very hydrating ingredients in it, including squalane, sunflower oil, jojoba oil, coconut oil. I feel like it looks just like my natural lips, except in terms of both the texture and the color. But I think it's pretty and it feels really good on my lips. And I think it also serves as a pretty good primer for lipstick. So if I put this on and then I put the Saie lipstick over it, it seems to work out pretty well for that. It's not available at Sephora. Right now it's only available on the Goop website and on the Saie website as far as I've been able to find. So the next product is the Saie Dew Balm. And this comes in a little tube, and it's in 3 different choices. One of them is like a lavender color, which is very unusual, and then there's a bronze color and a rose gold color. And I feel like this product is probably the closest dupe to the Jones Road Miracle Balm. So it's not exactly the same, but I feel like it's, in terms of it's serving that kind of function on my face to kind of provide a little bit of blurring and a little bit of highlight and a little bit of shine, that it does a pretty good job of providing the same kind of look. But it's in a smaller tube, which would be easier to carry around with you. It doesn't have the Miracle Balm, the rose geranium oil, and the other essential oils in it that can be irritating to people's skin, and it's not as expensive. So overall, I think this is a nice product. I've gotten a little bit of use out of it. However, it seems to be totally out of stock on the Saie website and everywhere else at present. So I don't know if they're going to be continuing to have this or not. It is still listed, so it'll be interesting to see if they bring it back. So the next product that I want to talk about is the Saie Glowy Super Gel Lightweight Dewy Highlighter. And this is a liquid highlighter that seems primarily designed to either serve as a primer on the skin or something to mix with foundation. You could use a little bit of it on the surface of the skin, but I wouldn't put it all over my whole face, and I wouldn't put it all over my whole face if I wasn't wearing any foundation. I think it's primarily for use with foundation unless you want to use it very sparingly. So as liquid highlighters go, I think this one's a pretty good one. I don't think it's irritated my skin. It has an interesting and kind of a strange smell that I think is due to the papaya oil in it. So I don't think it's a smell that has been irritating. It certainly is not a synthetic smell, and I don't really mind it, but it always takes me a little bit aback when I do smell it. But I think that in terms of something to mix into a foundation or to put on before foundation, if your goal is to get a lot of glow, that this is a pretty good product and pretty good compared to other products that I have tried, which is many of them. However, I don't feel like having really glowy skin is really so much the thing now. For a couple years, it was really, really popular, and now I think people are more going toward a matte look. And I've never really liked that super glowy look anyway, so I haven't gotten much use out of this myself. But if you are interested in having skin that has that glowy frosted donut type of a look to it, this would be a good product to try. So I think on this channel, whenever I talk about sunscreens, I'm going to have to show you what I wear when I go outside and to protect myself from the sun, because I have been doing this for the past 15 years or so whenever I've been in the sun. And I feel that this has done a really, really good job of protecting my skin from the sun without my needing to put down sunscreen on my face, because my face tends to get really irritated by all kinds of sunscreens. But I do always wear a hat like this and sunglasses like this, and the hat is SPF 50. It's from a company called Sunday Afternoons. And so I do take the sun really seriously, and my skin, even during the summer months, only gets a tiny little bit darker than it does during the winter months. And I think that compared to putting sunscreen on my face, which requires a lot of sunscreen if you're really going to get protection, and then you need to keep putting it on over and over again, I think this is providing much more protection. So if I were going to be going out in a boat, or if I were going to be going skiing, or if I were going to be outside all day in the bright sunlight, then I would resort to putting sunscreen on my face. But for the amount of sun that I get, and I avoid the sun in general, so I mostly go out during not during the midday. In addition to wearing this hat, I feel like I'm getting very, very good sun protection, and really much better than the vast majority of people who are sunscreen wearers are getting. So that being said, for the Saie Slip Tint, I like this product. I actually kind of like it a lot. It is very dewy. It has a lot of hydrating ingredients and oils in them, but that's actually been good for me. And if I put down a primer, like the Jane Iredale new foundation serves as a pretty good primer, that it doesn't work too badly for me. So that's what I did today. And I think this is actually an attractive product. I don't think that it looks bad on me. I only had to put down a little bit of powder on top of it today just to bring down the shine just a tiny little bit. But other than the amount of zinc that's in it, I don't mind it at all. So if I were going to use a sunscreen, this is one that I would definitely be in my consideration set of something to reach for. Now, just as a special product that's on the Saie website for a limited amount of time, is this Saie highlighter. It's very similar to the Dew Blush. It has the same kind of applicator to it. I thought that I was really going to like it. I feel like it's been a little bit on the kind of the dull side on my skin. It's kind of a rose gold, but it's very muted, and it's doesn't have a lot of shine, and it doesn't have a lot of color. So you can see what it looks like on my hand. And I'm not sure this gives much of a difference to my face at all. So maybe for someone with a different color skin tone than I have, it would work out better, but for me it just hasn't been that much of a difference. Now this Saie Bronzer, this is a product that I think could be really good for many people, but that really hasn't worked out for me. I used to have the lighter color, the original one that they introduced, and it seemed to me to be a little too neutral for my skin. So I really want something that's a little bit on the peach side. And that even though in the description of that they say that it's peach, it really is not. It was much more of a neutral color. And then this one is the medium bronze, which turns out to be on the golden side and way too golden for me to wear. So I'll put a little bit here, but so you can see how yellow that is. I would like to be able to wear a bronzer on my face, but I'm not going to put this one on my face. It'll just make me look terrible. Too much yellow is too much. Even on my neck, it looks pretty yellow. They have a new color that's even more neutral and lighter, so I don't think that's appropriate for me. So in terms of the color, I just don't think that they make a good color for me. In addition, I feel like this bronzer may be very slightly irritating to my skin. And I wonder if the reason is because they are using colloidal oatmeal in it. Now, if oatmeal is not organic, then it almost invariably, if it's grown in Canada or the US, it's almost invariably contaminated with glyphosate, and usually very large amounts of glyphosate. So I never eat non-organic oatmeal because it makes me feel really sick. And I think that probably if a product has non-organic oatmeal in it, that would be contaminated with glyphosate also. And the problem with glyphosate is that it's altering the microbiome. So it's killing off good bacteria, and it's allowing bad mold to grow. This is pretty solid in the literature. And so therefore, that's kind of the last thing that I need on my face, is to have something that's changing my microbiome for the worse, because it's already not very sturdy. So I think that just like it's not a great thing for me to be using products with colloidal oatmeal in them in terms of hand creams or other kinds of eczema type products, I also think that it's not that great for me to be using this product because it has the oatmeal in it, or that would be my guess. In any case, I don't feel like my skin liked this product very much, so I don't feel that it's that great of a loss that I can't use it because they don't make a product in the shade for me. And then way, 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 way down at the bottom of the list, way below everything else, is this eyebrow gel. So I purchased a whole bunch of different eyebrow gels last year, and I tried out all of them. And this is a very difficult category. There's a lot of eyebrow gels that arrived all dried up, and there were a lot of other eyebrow gels that caused my eyebrow area to feel aching. Those were usually the products with the problematic ingredients in them. So I had a hard time finding any good eyebrow gels. I did find a few eventually, but the Saie brow gel, that was one of the worst. And it certainly arrived so dried up that there was basically no product in it at all. And when I tried to really push on my eyebrows to get any product deposited, then it did end up causing that aching feeling as well. So I am not very happy about that. I just looked at the Sephora site, and they're not selling that in the stores, but they do still have it on the site. And people are still complaining about it. They're still saying it was unusable to them. And yet Sephora is continuing to sell it, and that still seems to be happening on the Saie site too. So I really feel like they should have taken this eyebrow gel and totally withdrawn it from the market a whole year ago, and instead they're continuing to sell it. And I think that's a problem. So one way that I judge whether a company is good is how they handle defective products. And in this case, I feel like they haven't handled it very well. But there's been a lot of other companies that have also not handled defective products very well either. But all in all, there certainly are some products from Saie that I really like, so I don't want to give up on the brand entirely. And I really like this lipstick a lot, so I'm really going to go out and try to find some more, choose a few more colors of this lipstick and let you know what I think of them. If you've enjoyed this video, then please be sure to subscribe to my channel. In addition, if you've tried any Saie products, then please let me know what you think of those in the comment section. And thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. Coco and I love you very much. Goodbye. Goodbye. Mwah.